Brilliant. Very warm welcome, everyone. And um, on this horrible, grey, rainy day, thank you so much to Janie for being here today to help us with all IT questions. Just for a quick introduction, my name is Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with the Boots Online Doctor Service, and we are going to be talking all about the art around eating, the how to eat, which is really a really important and often not talked about component around weight management and just our general health. So, just to let you know, I have been working in the arena of lifestyle medicine now for about 14 or 15 years. I'm also a registered nurse and have trained in health and wellness coaching as well, because behavior change is probably one of the key components for all of us when we want to get out on this journey and get our health sorted out. So I'm really passionate to be here. We love being here with you on a Monday lunchtime and supporting you as much as we can possibly on your weight loss journeys. If you've brought any questions along today, do pop them into the Q&A box and I will look at those at the end of the slide share. And if you have any comments or anything you'd like to share with us along the way, please put those comments into the chat box. It can be really helpful just to share how you're feeling or what's struck a chord with you or something you want to let others know. This is very much your space, really, for your support. So we really want this to be a helpful place for you to be. So let's move on. It would be really nice to know what has brought you here today. Is there anything you particularly would like to know, or are you just waiting to hear what I've got to share with you? Have you got any questions? Have you started thinking? Have you found anything's working really well for you that you'd like to share? But we're going to be thinking about the importance of how to eat to support that long-term and achievable weight loss. And really, we want to start you thinking about the importance of timing of food, whether fasting is a helpful addition, whether eating at any particular time of day makes a difference to our weight management, because these are all important things for us to be thinking about as well. So, thank you. Okay, got a little pop up. So, to let you know, we've just started a little poll for you. Do take a couple of minutes to have a look at this. I can see that some of you may have answered this before, but it's really helpful for us to know what's going on for you. The polls are completely anonymous. So what we would like to know is whether have you got a clear motivation for wanting to lose weight? Have you perhaps lost weight in the past and regained it, or never been on a weight loss journey in the past? What are your health reasons? Have you got health reasons for wanting to lose weight, or is it because you want to look great in a particular outfit that you're keen to look good in? So do have a look. I can see two people so far have taken part in the poll, so it'd be great to see a few more responses from you. So thank you. It's a bit quiet. Sorry, I think I was speaking quite quietly. And thank you. I hope, and also we've started sharing the recordings of the webinars with you. So if there's something you wanted to go back over again, or you miss an element of it, then you should be able to pick up the recording. We are sending out the links in the emails that you've registered to attend the webinars, and that will be hopefully coming out to you later on today. That seems to be what we're managing to achieve every week. So let's have a look. I can see about 30, just over 30 people have taken part in the poll. So around 60% of people who have turned up today, who have managed to come along today. So let's share. For some reason, it's not letting me share the results. So I'm not sure. Okay, I can share the results, which means it's then closed, but that's okay. So let's see what we've got here. So I'm sharing the results with you, hopefully. So around 86% of you have got a clear reason for wanting to lose weight. Around 70% of you have regained the weight when you've lost it in the past. Some of you have regained some of the weight, so thank you. And for just one person today, that's not a relevant question, but thank you for answering. So quite a lot of you, around 99%, I would say 97% then have got, vested interest in being here. You want to keep this weight off this time around. A lot of you are wanting to focus on improving your blood pressure. Some of you got inflammatory conditions, low energy, to be able to be more physically active, appearance, fitting into clothes, and feeling good about yourself are really high up there. Look, 81% of you. So around 40% of you are feeling confident, and 50% of you aren't sure whether you're feeling confident or not about losing weight. And these are the things that might get in your way. So hunger, a little bit, willpower seems to be up there. And we've talked about willpower and your habits. We do really like thinking about habits. It's such an important step. And what are you going to do this week to maybe help? So menu planning, really up there. Drinking more water, fantastic. Let's have these intentions set and let's see how you get on with that intention setting, because it's a really important element is actually having really clear intentions. So let's get on, and thanks so much for sharing that. I'm sharing this slide as a little reminder. So as a quick recap, really, because we can't talk about food and how to eat if we don't think about the food that we're eating as well. So we very much want you to be thinking about eating foods that sit over on the green side of this chart, those low glycemic, the lower carbohydrate, the lower in processed foods. And the reason for this, why is this so important? What we know is if we focus and eat a lot of the high sugar, the high glycemic foods on the red side of the chart, foods such as chocolates, biscuits, white bread, jacket potatoes, we're going to have a rapid rise in our blood sugar. And in response to that, our pancreas will release quite a lot of insulin to bring the glucose down into our cells. And the more that we eat those sort of high sugar foods, the more insulin that we have to produce. This can lead to a drop in our blood sugar, and that drop in our blood sugar can make us end up feeling really tired. It can make us feel quite fatigued. It can make us feel hungry, and it can trigger off cravings for sugary foods. That sort of continuous cycle can put quite a strain on your pancreas, and over time can contribute to a loss of insulin sensitivity, creating insulin resistance and creating you on a path to type 2 diabetes. So we really want you to move away from that. And that sort of like craving for sugar, craving for coffee, craving for sort of a fix of some description is really true. I talk to a lot of people about this, and it is very, very common for a lot of people to be feeling like this. On the converse side, on the green side, eating those sort of green, the lower glycemic foods leads to your energy being much more steady. Your blood sugar will rise a lot less quickly and a lot less dramatically, so you'll have to produce less insulin. And actually, one of the things that we really need to do over the long run is get our head around how we stay in that green side of eating the majority of the time. Everyone can eat a red food every now and then. You can have your treats, absolutely, but they need to be the lesser aspect and maybe a lot less to really get that weight loss working for you. So I hope that makes sense. It's a very quick recap. To remind you, we have created the core meal plan. So Janie, thank you if you're able to share any of those links, the core meal plan and the Mediterranean style of eating. Those are great places to start. So we'll share those links for you in the chat box as well. And, it might just help you to refresh and look at those and see, where you're at, how you're doing with those, whether you're achieving that a lot of the time. So let's move on. I wanted to talk a little about looking at our circadian rhythm, our circadian clock, and what can we learn from the circadian clock in relation to weight loss? Why is this important? Does it matter when you eat? And does this make a difference to weight loss? Well, interestingly, the research says yes, it can do. Our circadian clock operates on our 24-hour cycle, and it's aligned very much with the light and the dark periods. We have a master clock, which is in our brains, in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is really deeply in our brain, which receives signals from our eyes. what we have found from looking at the research is that eating earlier in the day can boost weight loss. That's really interesting because quite a lot of us have got into the whole sort of like intermittent fasting approach to eating. I was doing that myself for a while. I've stopped that now recently in the recent months. I feel good with it, but I don't think it was helping me with my weight management. So I have moved away from that. But some people find it really works. But the research, interestingly, says eating the majority of your calories earlier in the day can be helpful. So that suggests that a higher calorie breakfast might be something that enhances weight loss and insulin sensitivity. So if you're struggling with weight management, if you're struggling to get those pounds off, these might be really helpful information for you. Equally, late night eating or eating late or irregularly can also disrupt our metabolic health. So that can reduce how sensitive we are to insulin. What we know is the more number of times that we eat in a day, the more insulin we have to produce. So therefore, we're going to be having a lot of more insulin around in our system. The key here, though, for all of us, I think, for health, for anyone who wants to focus on reducing inflammation in terms of managing weight, reducing blood pressure, is consistency. So, actually, what the research says in terms of that circadian rhythm eating is actually finding a pattern whereby you can eat regularly can be really helpful, and sort of aligning to your natural circadian rhythm can really help to enhance your weight management. So I was thinking about this in relation to shift workers. I used to be one of those myself, and I know shift workers can really struggle with weight management. And actually, what the research says for people who are shift workers is about keeping that regularity as well, and just thinking how this can figure. So actually, what you do on your days off sort of aligns a little bit more with what you do when you're working. So I hope that makes sense, but do ask any questions and we'll pick those up later. So, one of the patterns that we're very keen on, and I talked about just now, is this time restricted eating, or sort of like skipping breakfast or intermittent fasting. It's got all sorts of amazing little trendy titles, but actually, it's become a really popular approach to weight management. And some of the research helps us to understand that this can, in fact, be helpful and can help people to lower their fasting blood sugars and also can reduce their fasting insulin levels. There's also some research that it can help in terms of appetite control. So, one of the things it suggests is that we may have an improvement in our leptin levels. So, leptin is our satiety hormone. So, we may feel that our satiety works better for us when we adopt a sort of intermittent fasting pattern. So, some research suggests again that an 8 hour eating women, goodness me, no, an 8 hour eating window can really help with appetite control. So, and with insulin sensitivity. So if this is completely alien to you and you're somebody who's currently eating very regularly through the day, or you're a fridge raider in the evening, or you're waking up at night, then this is really important to start thinking about. But obviously, just restricting yourself down to an 8 hour window in that initial phase can be really difficult. So, we would recommend starting with just trying to get yourself eating within a 12-hour window. And that can be really helpful in terms of really helping with that insulin sensitivity and reducing the amount of insulin that you're producing at night. So you could say, I'm going to start, my sort of eating clock starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, for example. So therefore, it's got to finish by 7 o'clock in the evening. Or say, for example, you've got a really late day for whatever reason and you need to eat something at 8 in the evening, then just adjust your eating window around that. Then other popular options around this type of style is the 16-8. That's very popular. So you have 16 hours where you don't eat and you have an 8 hour eating window. And we'd really recommend that in that window, you're consuming 2 or 3 meals. So aim for 2 or 3 meals. And again, with the 14-10, you're fasting for 14 hours and you've got a 10-hour eating window. Now, that 10-hour eating window just means that that's the time the fridge is open, basically. You've got your meals, you still stick with your sort of like routine around having those 2 or 3 meals. You try very much in line with the core eating plan to reduce down the number of snacks that you have, because every time you eat, you're going to be producing insulin, and we want to really calm that down and calm the whole cycle of blood sugar imbalance down. So eat maybe 2 or 3 meals in that 14-hour window, or in that 16-hour window, or in the 12-hour window. Now, if you're somebody who desperately needs a snack because you just feel so rubbish without, or if you're somebody who is snacking loads at the moment, it might be that you don't do this overnight. We don't recommend that you suddenly switch everything in a day. You're going to have to work towards this. So, this might be a process by which you sort of gradually bring things into line, and you do this slowly. So, this is your aim to get there over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that might be the way to approach it. We're all different and we're all in different places. So, we're not all going to just suddenly say, right, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it as of now. It is like we're all works in progress, really and truly, aren't we? And I think that's a really important thing for us all to recognise and consider. So I can see there's a question. I'm just going to see if it's anything helpful that would be helpful for me to talk about now. Um, Great, we've got the eating guides. And does that include? Great. So thank you, Leslie. I love that question. Does this eating window include drinking as well? Interesting, really good question. So yes, in a way, it really does. Obviously, we don't want you feeling dehydrated, and I would recommend, really and truly, if you're going to follow that approach as well, that you want to be thinking about perhaps water and herbal or fruit teas outside of those eating windows, and keeping your caffeinated beverages or whatever you have in line with your meals as much as possible, or in that eating window. And that can also make a difference to the amount of insulin that we produce, our blood sugar balance. So it's really worth thinking about drinks in that too. So thank you for bringing that up. Fantastic. So, I want to talk a little bit about rest and digest and why this is important. So, we have looked again at the research and what we know, and I guess I work a lot with people with their gut health problems as well, is that we really would recommend for the majority of people, and again, we're all different. So, don't forget you have your own unique body that works well for you or not well for you, and it's about taking stock and thinking what little changes can I make. But actually, we would really recommend that you work towards having a 4 to 5 hour gap between eating and your next meal. And this is so that your digestion can reset adequately, you can digest your food adequately, and this can really help with insulin sensitivity as well. But to achieve this, we really know that you probably need to make sure that you're eating enough protein, that you're eating fiber and some healthy fats with each of your meal, so that it keeps you feeling really satisfied and fuller, so that you don't really need to reach for those snacks. So being full from eating a healthy meal can really help to satisfy your physical hunger. That doesn't necessarily negate your emotional hunger. So you need to really check in with yourself about, okay, what is it about this snacking? What's it feeding? Is it feeding my mood? Am I bored? Are people winding me up? Am I, stressed about something? Is there something going on that's making you want to snack? If you're physically hungry, have a look at your meals and see, just check in with yourself and just say, okay, is this working for me? Okay, what was missing in that meal? Have I got some healthy fats in there? Have I got enough protein? Really challenge yourself to see how this is working for you. And this sort of approach where you have that maximum time between your meal moments or your eating moments can really help to enhance your digestion, your absorption of your nutrients, and really benefit that insulin sensitivity. The other point around this and that big green sign, the chew 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 sign, is actually, yes, we need to chew our food. And I think we forget And if we take time and we chew and we take time over our meals, it can really support our digestion. So if you're somebody who's really struggling with digestive discomfort or bloating, actually these rules, these simple adjustments can make a huge difference to your digestive comfort. So really great places to start for many of us. So just allowing time again before your final meal, before you go to bed, again, can really help with better quality sleep, and has been found to really support weight management as well. So this again, we're all different. So we'll talk about this. We're going to talk about cravings in another webinar in a few weeks' time. So we're all different. We're all starting in different places. Just work out where you are and what's important for you to take away from this for today. So we talked a little bit just now about snacking, so I'll just go quickly over that. We know that if we are not snacking, we'll have better blood sugar management and we'll have our blood sugars will be more stable and we will produce less insulin. And we want to be producing less insulin because the more insulin that we create, the more fat we are going to be storing. So we really want to think about that. If you're someone who needs to have a snack, then stop and think about what that snack is going to look like. Really try and focus on some healthy snacks, say some nuts and some fruit. Something like that would be a better option. Some hummus and some celery, for example, would be a good option. Even having like a hard-boiled egg, that would be a fantastic option if you're an egg eater. So really think about what a snack is. It doesn't have to be something that comes in a plastic wrap and that is ultra sweet. We sometimes need to snack to really balance ourselves, or if we're just having those periods where, for whatever reason, we're extra hungry or we're incredibly tired. And those are real trigger times, I think, for many people for that sort of reaching for those snacks. So I think the plan should be to really have a strategy, make a plan, and be really organized in terms of your meal timings. But don't starve, because if we starve, we're much more likely to overeat and reward ourselves with the wrong foods, just because that's what human nature does to us, unfortunately. So really think about that and see how you get on with this. And let us know, let us know how you get on. This may be something you've all considered before and you're already there. Fantastic. Share your tips. If it's new to you, don't be overwhelmed. Just take it one step at a time and think about the things that you can do that are easy to achieve, because that's really important. So, along with that sort of chewing, actually, another tip around eating is to just slow down. I often talk to people, and one of the things I'll ask is, who finishes first in their household? Are they the fast eater? Are they the slow eater? Actually, we know that slowing down, eating mindfully, sitting at a table, putting your knife and fork down between mouthfuls, if you're and naturally you've learned to eat fast because you need to be getting on with the next task. But what we know, it makes absolute sense, really, but actually they've done some research as well, is that the people who eat faster consume more calories. Well, I guess that comes as no surprise. I think the people who eat faster will inevitably eat more quickly, so they're going to finish their food more quickly. But also, in terms of getting the signal to our brain that we've eaten, it can take about 20 minutes. So if you finish your food very quickly, and maybe even within 5 minutes, your brain is not going to know that you've had food or that you're satisfied. And actually, that then increases the risk of overeating because you're still feeling hungry physically. So you have to become very mindful. You have to start thinking, okay, no, I should feel satisfied. If for any reason you have eaten very quickly, I shouldn't be hungry in 20 minutes. So check in with yourself then and see how you're going, because it's actually really difficult. And also, slowing down, chewing your food, taking time out to eat means that actually just focusing on the pleasure of the food that you're eating can be also part of this whole new appreciation of healthy food, of your health, of feeding your health in a way that is really consistent with what you're here for, and that is to be healthy, to lose weight, to feel great, to look good in your clothes. All of those things are important to you, and all of this can make a difference to how that works for you and whether that's something that you achieve. I hope that makes sense. This to me is a really important step for all of us. And we're all in this sort of society whereby we're eating on the go, we're eating on the hoof, we're eating in our cars, we're eating at our desks, we're often eating with our laptops working, answering emails, we often watch TV and eat, but actually move away from all of those things. Sit at a table, slow down, and chew your food can make a huge difference to how your digestion feels and to how your weight loss is. So, a little like alternate. Um, so, this is sort of thinking about alternate day fasting, which is slightly different to intermittent fasting. Now, this isn't safe for everyone. There are a number of people who feel pregnant or breastfeeding. We really wouldn't recommend alternate day fasting. You'd really need to be working with somebody on a one-to-one to know whether this is suitable for you. But it does work for some people. It's very much sort of the whole Michael Mosley approach, the sort of 5-2 approach, whereby you cut your calories down 2 or 3 days a week to around 600 to 800 calories in that day, and the rest of the week you can eat sort of fairly normally. Some research suggests that actually this approach can again help with fat burning and again with improved insulin sensitivity. So, again, it is worth considering if you're stuck. And also, if you're hitting a point in your life where you've got a lot of social events, I think it can really help us get our heads around being flexible in that week. So maybe having lean days and sort of more exciting days when you're going to be socializing. It gives you a little bit more freedom in terms of caloric intake. But actually, and it can be something that we just do one week and we don't do for a few more weeks. Might work for some people, not for others. So again, it's just worth mentioning. The research suggests it can be helpful. And on the days when you're not really, when you're on all of the days, even when you're doing those lower calorie days, I'd really recommend that you get that protein in, you get a little bit of healthy fat in, and you fill up on fiber-rich vegetables as much as possible. And maybe eating some vegetable-based soups with some pulses in, things like that, could be really helpful on those days. And then on your other days, yes, have a treat. Go over to that red side of that first chart that we shared, but that shouldn't really and truly be the whole way of approaching those days. But we're all going to have days when we want an evening off or a lunchtime off. So it can help with that sort of flexible approach. And hopefully that's food for thought. Somebody mentioned drinking, which was a really helpful question just now, but also thinking about drinks and how important they are in terms of bringing in extra hidden calories, I think. We know that alcohol, for example, is thought to lead to weight gain due to our need to detoxify alcohol from our system. And the suggestion is that while we're removing that alcohol out of our system, our liver is working quite hard to do that. So while our liver is working hard to process that alcohol and remove it from our system, we may find it difficult to combine that with losing weight. So that's a really interesting area around alcohol. And also we know that hidden calories in alcohol are specifically linked to increased storage of visceral fat, that fat around those organs. So that's again interesting. So, I'm sorry, good and bad news, isn't there? Whereas, there's other research to suggest that a smaller amount of something like red wine may actually be helpful in reducing that visceral fat. Again, these are small scale studies, so I don't think we can put a lot of inference on them, but it's interesting that they're beginning to look at these factors and we can take a little bit of guidance from it. We also need to be thinking about artificial sweeteners in drinks. We know that they are something that we are particularly unkeen for you to be consuming with any degree of regularity. The reason we're not keen on those we have talked about before, but just to quickly touch on the science there, is that we know that the sort of sweetness that we receive from those artificially sweetened drinks can trick our body into thinking that it's had something sweet. And so even though it's not had any sugar or anything sweet, we will still have the same physiological response to that artificially sweetened drink. So we will produce some insulin, and we actually haven't got anything for the insulin to be working on. So we may get into that whole blood sugar um, sort of imbalance a little bit more. We also know that sweetness without calories has been found to activate our food reward pathways in our brain. And that is thought to lead to increased appetite. So that's quite scary, really. So, isn't it interesting? We're having something thinking we're doing ourselves a favour, and actually, it could be completely converse to that. So, our advice is as much as possible, avoid those artificially sweetened drinks and stick to, the water, sort of like water with some natural fruit in, a few drops of lemon juice, some cider vinegar, just learn. Our taste buds change so we can re-educate them and we can move away from these sort of artificially sweetened drinks. Interesting, some research around water that was conducted in 2022 found that drinking 1 to 2 glasses of water before a meal can really help to reduce our appetite and support weight management. So again, that's something else to think about layering in is, are you getting enough water? Are you drinking enough to be adequately hydrated? Are you supporting your appetite in a way that is healthy? Obviously, I'm not suggesting you over drink your water, but also just be thinking about, are you hydrated enough? Are you drinking enough water? And hopefully that is helpful thoughts. So a recap, and we've got another poll, I think, to share with you. So this week, Janie, I don't know if you can dig out that poll for us. That would be great if you could. So if not, I can have a quick look. Brilliant, thank you. So please have a look at the poll and we'll share the results with you in a minute. So just to recap, I would say start thinking about how often you're eating and whether there's the opportunity to eat less often, really to help in terms of that insulin sensitivity. Make sure you perhaps are bringing in a time zone. So I think for all of us, even if we don't want to cut it down any lower, 12 hours, generally speaking, is going to be a broad enough time zone. Take time out to eat, chew your food really well, and eat those 2 to 3 balanced meals in a day so that you really don't have to snack. And if you're finding that you're getting those cravings, check in with yourself and think, is this an emotional craving? Is it stress? Have I not had enough sleep? All of the things that can lead to cravings are far beyond just appetite. And, if you've got something coming up that's a really special occasion, start planning around that. What are you going to do in the days before and around it to compensate for having that special occasion and having a lovely evening out or a lovely lunchtime out or just having fun with your friends or in life, because these are important things to consider. So just to remind you, I can see about 50 people have taken part in the poll. So a few more potentially could. So do have a look. It's completely anonymous. No one knows who's answered what, and I can share your results in a minute. So let's have a look. What are you going to do based on today's webinar? People are going to start tracking how often they eat. Great. About 50% of you are going to start eating within a defined time. That's creeping up. So a lot of you are going to be working towards creating a routine around meals that can work all week. I can see 40% of you are going to be taking time away to eat, so avoiding distractions. Oh, great. The chewing is today's winner. So around 69% of you are going to be chewing more, and around 50%, really music to my ears, are going to be thinking about consciously reducing your snacking. So thank you. It's really good to see what's happening for you, and actually hopefully that what we're sharing in these webinars is helping and making a difference. Be really interested to know how you get on next week, and I'm going to share those results now. So have a look. It is good, and it's good to know that there's quite a few of you who are really taking on board some of the things that we're talking about. So thank you so much for taking part in those polls. So just to let you know, we are coming now to our Q&A session. This is where I pick up any questions that have been asked in the chat box or into the Q&A box. And just to let you know what's coming up over the next few weeks. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Sarah. Sarah's been off for a few months, so hopefully she's going to be here next week with me to bring forth the Supercharge Your Metabolism webinar. On the 7th of October, I'm going to be joined by Rupa, who is a pharmacy lead for menopause. And we're going to be talking about weight loss strategies for perimenopause and menopause. And then on the 14th of October, we're going to be looking at the psychological aspect or the psychology of weight loss, the sort of power of our thoughts as much as anything else. This is really important. And then the following 2 weeks, we'll be taking a break and then we'll be back with you, I believe, in November. I think that's correct. Yes. So I am going to stop sharing now. And we have one final poll, which I was just going to quickly ask, which we asked last week as well, about cameras on and cameras off. I was just going to see if I can find it quickly, because for whatever reason, we didn't manage to capture your questions, and we need to know really. For the webinars, would you prefer to have your cameras on or off? And thank you. We really don't have, we really are open to whatever is right for everyone. We have always run the webinars with the cameras off because our assumption was that was potentially people's preferences. And when we asked you last week, and actually got really similar results this week. So thank you for taking the time to answer this question. Just we're being asked by the managers of the Boots Online Doctor Service whether this is something we need to review. But I can see categorically that actually everybody is much happier generally with their cameras off. Just one person today who would like the camera on. So I think 75% of you have said that you would like those cameras off, and I think that's really helpful for us. So thank you for taking the time to let us know that. Grand. Okay, so let's have a look at your questions. So I'm going to just quickly paraphrase. So something I was told by a personal trainer is that in the back of my mind, making my efforts feel futile. Fat cells once created do not go away when you lose weight. They are just empty. This means you'll always end up putting weight back on. Is this true? Great question. No, it's not strictly true. Yes, we think our fat cells expand and shrink. And we're talking about this actually in a group conversation at work the day. So we know that fat cells can shrink. We are unlikely to lose those fat cells, so they will be there. But actually, interestingly enough, it is more about our body composition, which is going to be the thing that makes the difference as to whether we put the weight back on. So actually, and the key, I think, for weight management, weight maintenance are these very simple things. That while we lose weight, we learn to eat in a way which is consistent with health, that we follow the principles of the core meal plan, and we just make that our new habitual way of eating. We can try adding in things like intermittent fasting, alternate day fasting. That can be also helpful for weight maintenance. So those systems can work well if you've got health reasons that don't preclude you from trying those. Keeping your eye on the ball is really important. So don't become complacent when you've lost weight. Keep your eye well and truly on the ball. I know for myself in the past when I've lost weight, I have taken my eye off the ball, regained weight very quickly. So it's very demoralizing. I totally understand how that can feel. But I think keeping our eyes on the ball is really important. And then working on muscle mass is also really important, and being adequately hydrated. So balancing our hormones, eating that way to balance our insulin, balancing our hormones, and doing some sort of resistance exercise. We don't have to be muscle builders, but we need our muscles to work for us, and we need to have strong muscles. So that is all we need to be thinking about. So we'll talk about that more next week. So, absolutely not. You can keep weight off, you can lose weight successfully, you can maintain it. I think one of the things that we forget is the hard work might actually start when we near the end of that weight loss journey. And actually, we need that attention here in our heads just as much. We can't let go of that achievement. We can't let go of the need to maintain that achievement. I'm going to get off this subject now because it's a huge subject, really important for us to be talking about, and I hope that's helpful. I don't mean that in any demoralizing way. I just think there is no quick fix and there is no magic bullet, but there are things we can do that can make a difference. So I really hope that helps. Somebody's asking, is intermittent fasting okay for teenagers? I think teenage is a very difficult time of life. It's a time when we are growing very dramatically, and we need a lot of nutrition to support that sort of anabolic growth phase of our bodies and also for hormone development. I'm not sure. I've not looked at any research. We're not talking to teenagers in these podcasts and webinars. So I think I would say I would need to look at the research and would suggest you probably need to look at the research. More importantly, I think a 12-hour window, not snacking once you've sort of like after dinner, if you can manage that, or a very small before bed snack. And actually just bringing in maybe a 12 to 14-hour window for them, depending on their level of activity, and really following things like a Mediterranean diet or the cool meal plan, and learning to eat real food can be a really helpful approach. So I hope that helps. How many times should you chew your food? Most resources say 32. Is that right? Great question. So there used to be some sort of like method called reported by something called like Fletcherism or something, which was saying like literally hundreds and hundreds of times per mouthful. My go-to advice is that you chew all of your food, whatever goes in your mouth, until it's reached a sort of real pulpy baby food consistency and has had the opportunity of mixing up with all of the salivary enzymes that you've got in your mouth. So see how you go with that. Or yes, you could use 30 times as if you're a sort of mathematically orientated person, use that 30 as an option and just see how you go. Try counting, see if it manages to get you to slow down. And thanks for asking that question. When fasting and only drinking, can you put milk into tea and coffee? If you're really doing a clear fast, then actually they would recommend that you don't put milk in your tea or coffee. One of the things you can add is medium chain triglycerides. So you can put in, there are special MCT oils that you can add to coffee that almost turn it into like a latte. So some people love that. You can add a little bit of coconut oil into your coffee, and you can also some people, real purists, will say don't even have herbal tea or fruit teas. Other people will say that they're reasonably very similar to water. So depending on who you are, your personal sensitivity and your preferences, if actually not having tea or coffee is really hard for you, but having a herbal tea instead helps, then I would go with the herbal tea. So see how you get on. Somebody is saying they're drinking a lot of coconut water. Should I cut back? I haven't looked at any research around how much coconut water would be safe to drink. It's a really nice source of natural electrolytes, but I think it may affect your blood sugar balance if you're having a huge amount of it. So maybe try cutting it back and seeing how you get on. Great. Could you say anything about low GI, GL eating while tackling weight loss, and any risks of low blood sugar when no existing blood sugar issues happen? So that's a good question. So the core eating plan is all around eating in a low glycemic way. So that is what we 100 think about recommending, because we know that eating in a low glycemic way means that you are eating foods that release their sugars more slowly. You're going to have much more even energy, and you're going to feel that your energy is balanced, you're going to have less cravings. So that can be really helpful. The GI of the GL means that you're looking at the specific effect. No, the GL is looking at the effect of a portion of that food, and there is a vague difference between the glycemic index and the glycemic load of the food. You can combine foods, so you can add in a small amount of what was I going to say? So a small amount of healthy whole grains. So we talk about that in the What to Eat webinar. So we would recommend a small amount of whole grains, so some brown rice or some quinoa or some barley or, maybe some wholemeal bread. Um, so I would say you could have a small amount of those, but you really want that to be a tiny amount. So yes, so see how you get on with that. Um, so So there's a question about dairy milk. So I presume you're talking about drinking milk here and whether there's a limit per week. I really have not looked at the science around how much that would be. So I would say just keep it. Some people would say that if they're eating a large amount of dairy product, that if you're going for the full fat dairy product, which is a healthy way to eat your dairies, if you're a dairy eater, but actually, if you're eating a large amount, then you may want to go for the lower fat option, which is very conflicting to everything I've said. So I think actually that's quite tricky. White meats, so white meats like turkey and chicken are fine to eat. They're low glycemic and they are protein rich. So you would want to, you're fine to be eating those. So I hope that helps. Somebody's asking about a specific sweetener. I believe erythritol is actually a sweetener with a low glycemic index. So again, that would be potentially helpful to use. But again, I would just say keep it to a minimum. All the while that we're using an artificial sweetener, we are encouraging a sweet tooth because we are just feeding our sensation of needing something sweet. You can retrain your taste buds. So if you're somebody who is desperate to have something sweet and your taste buds really want sweet food and you find it really difficult to tolerate the less sweet options, you can retrain that. So it might be that you need to just really start thinking about why you're having that sweetener. If it's a lack of tolerance for things that aren't sweet, then perhaps that's something you really need to put some attention into. I hope that helps. Great. Somebody's asking about chewing gum, if it's okay to ask to have. I would say, again, I would count that as something to have just after a meal, not to be chewing it all day long. I hope that's helpful. Thank you. Okay, so somebody's asking about intermittent fasting and the risk of gallstones. I haven't read that myself, but I'm just thinking about that laterally. I know with weight management, fast weight loss can increase the risk of gallstones. So I'm wondering if there is any link there in terms of gallstones. I'd have to go away. I'm going to write it down on a little list and look at that, gallstones and intermittent fasting. I'll have a look and see if there's any evidence around that and report back. So thank you for asking. It might be about the speed of weight loss, but I'm not sure. So we'll come back and let you know. Grand. That's done. So somebody's asking about binge eating, and we do get asked about this a fair amount. So thank you again for asking that. So in terms of binge eating, I think it is often an emotional eating problem. So I think recognizing that the problem is there is a great first step. And actually, just even admitting to it to yourself is a huge first step. And it is something that is really not uncommon now. A lot of people become binge eaters because of emotional stress or because they've got a bad relationship with food. And dieting itself, being on a diet, which we really want the mindset to move away from the being on a diet mindset, can, for some people, really trigger off binge eating. And the reason we think this is because quite often, if you're in that sort of like, I can't have this food mindset and I only can eat foods that I don't really like mindset, then it can become that that food that you're not eating takes on a whole new level of importance, so much so that you're almost driven to eat it and will then overeat it. So it's a very not uncommon phenomenon with people who have done a cycle of weight loss and weight regain. If you're somebody who has lost weight, regained weight, lost weight, regained weight, and has that history, then it is really worth looking at what your patterns of eating are and if binge eating is a component of it. It is surmountable. For some people, it is just acknowledging there's an emotional component to eating for you and about learning to love foods that love you back. That sounds so simple in that sentence, and we absolutely know for many people it's not as simple as the sentence makes it seem. But actually, just getting to grips with some healthy foods that fill you up, making sure you've got your protein in every meal, making sure you've got some vegetables, and making sure that you perhaps bringing in some natural sweetness with some berries or some low glycemic fruit can really be, and actually just talking to yourself and just talking about feeding your health can be really helpful. Um, and then I think if you really are still struggling and you're finding that despite all your best efforts, you're still really just having those moments of, mindless overeating, which is what binge eating can be, then that is the point at which I'd really ask you to reach out and get some support. And your GP should be able to support you with that and refer you to some emotional support. But there are some great organisations who actually specialise in binge eating as well. So it is an area that is really worth just recognising and putting some attention to. For many people, you can overcome that with that mindfulness. And for other people, it takes more effort and more support. And, there's no right or wrong. So, really and truly, see how you go with that. I hope that's helpful. Um, yes, sorry, Janie, can you share? I don't know if you have already shared the core meal plan and the Mediterranean style of eating. I hope so. I think you have. Um, Okay, thank you. And yes, thank you. So you've mentioned about binge eating as well and sort of being healthy, eating vegetarian day to day. So I think actually really check in, and for many people who are following a vegetarian diet, one of the things I've noticed from talking to lots of people over a considerable length of time and looking at the researchers as well is that actually it can be really hard to nail your protein requirements when you're eating a vegetarian diet. So really have a look and make sure that you're getting those healthy vegetarian sources of protein in, that you're getting variety and that you're eating enough. And by enough, we would say as a minimum, you want to be having zero point 0.8 of a gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So just weigh yourself, convert it into kilograms if you're weighing in stones and pounds. You can do that very easily online, which I know you can all use online resources because you're here today. And just really multiply that figure by zero point 0.8 and see what comes up. And then, just really, really have a think about how you're going to get that protein in. It can make a huge difference in terms of satiety, keeping you feeling fuller, feeding your brain. Also, be thinking about those healthy fats. Healthy fats in our brain is really important, and that's also true for anybody who's neurodivergent. We really want, or suffering with low mood, we really want those healthy fats to be part and parcel. You will get a copy of the recording. The slides are not available to share, but you'll get the recording so that you'll see the slides on the recording. What would be good snacks for someone who's allergic to fruit nuts? Cucumber, peppers, onions, and spring onions, avocado, and lettuce. Sorry, are you allergic to all of those foods? If you're still here, do please tell me. I'm not sure what my waddy is, so I can't tell you whether it's good to drink. I'm sorry to not know. I can look that up. I can put it on my little list of things to look at, but I've never heard of it, so I can't comment. If you are allergic to all of those foods, then I would suggest things like eggs would be a great thing to snack on. or even a little piece of cheese. It depends if you're eating meat, you could have a small amount of chicken as a snack. There are lots of things you could add to that mix. So anything, it may be that you need to make yourself like a mini meal or even make some soup, and that could become your snack, or some hummus or something along those lines. Okay, so Christine, you wish there was more support like this, like a group chat. We currently don't have the capacity to give that. However, what we do have is we have a lot of resources we can share with you. So, Janie, could you share the link to the 10-week weight loss program? That is a pre-recorded asynchronous support. So it's there whatever time of day or night you would like it. So that is a little bit more support. It also has a lot of the resources. So it's got a food and symptom diary. It's got all of the different eating styles to look at, and that's there all of the time. We currently don't have the sort of the team isn't large enough, but other resources are coming online, so there will be more going forwards. Just not there yet right now, but stick with it. Come along to the webinars if you can every week. We 100% want to support you, which is why we've started the webinars. We know that having some support is a really important factor. And Carol, thank you so much for writing your message. And that's really helpful for everybody to hear and very inspirational. And you're £2 away from your target for the first time ever. And it's because you've followed the advice here. Thank you so much for that. Is such a beautiful thing for me to read, and I'm sure for everyone else who's read it. So thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that comment. It really is important for us to know we're making that difference. So Valerie, you've asked if alcohol is really bad. Um, it's probably just something that can get in the way of long-term healthy weight loss. So yes, it's not really bad if you can have it in moderation and less frequently. If you're having it in larger amounts and more frequently, then it is something to look at. Thank you for confirming, Emma. So I'm hoping that the ideas I've suggested are helpful. Again, snacks don't have to be sugar orientated, so just choose foods that you know are safe for you to eat and just turn those into little mini snacks. I really hope that helpful. And I'm really pleased to hear, Kaylin, that you're inspired and motivated now to lose weight. That is absolutely why we are here. We are 1,000,000% here for providing you with that support. So really hope that helps. I'm going to bring today's webinar to a close in a couple of minutes. So thank you so much, and thank you so much to Janie for all your support today as well. And yeah, just keep up the great work, everyone. I know, from personal experience that this is a challenging journey. But it is an achievable journey. You just have to. The information we're sharing with you is achievable. It's not rocket science. It's trying to make sense of a really complicated story, and we're constantly being bombarded, aren't we, all of us, with messages that don't really help. So let's avoid all of those messages that confuse us, and let's just go with what we know makes a difference. Good luck, everyone. Have a great week, and I will see you next Monday. Take care, everyone.